10 billion COVID vaccine doses. That's how many have now been administered around the world. But the distribution is far from equal. Look at this. In wealthy countries, about 77% of people have received at least one dose. But in low-income countries, fewer than 10%. That's according to research from the Our World in Data project at the University of Oxford. Researchers in Texas say they've been working on a way to close the equity gap. They just created a brand new, cheap vaccine, and it's patent-free. That means it's easier for developing countries to make it and distribute it. NBC's Morgan Chesky spoke with the doctors behind the new, potentially game-changing vaccine.
At Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, there is much more than meets the eye. Inside this lab lies what they believe to be the potential silver bullet for taking down COVID-19.
Our lab is the United Nations of Science.
A team of doctors, led by Dr. Peter Hotez and Dr. Maria Elena Batazzi, has dedicated their careers to finding a solution to fill a critical vaccination gap.
Look, Delta arose out of an unvaccinated population in India at the beginning of last year, and then Omicron arose out of an unvaccinated population out of Southern Africa. So Mother Nature is telling us what's going to happen as long as we refuse to vaccinate the world's low and middle income countries.
With $7 million mostly provided by philanthropists, the duo turned to an old answer to solve a new problem. Crafting a vaccine inside Texas Children's they're calling a game changer, one they say they don't own the intellectual property for.
It's a similar technology to that's used to make the recombinant hepatitis B vaccine. It's known as microbial fermentation in yeast. It's actually a vegan vaccine. No human cells, no human proteins, no animal cells, no animal proteins.
The technology important because it's existed for decades, allowing multiple low-income countries to produce their own vaccine without intellectual property obstacles or waiting for donated shipments of Pfizer or Moderna's vaccine that often arrive too late to make a serious difference.
This is where we cook it up. They get a recipe, they get a toolbox of tests to ensure the quality, the yield, the purity, and then they get us plus our team that if you have a question, you just pick up the phone.
What sets the vaccine created in this very Texas Children's Lab apart isn't just how it's made, but why. There is no patent. That means that a company anywhere in the world can scale it unlike anything we've seen.
In fact, in India, Corbevax has secured emergency use authorization after completing 2 phase 3 clinical trials.
The great thing about it is there's no limit to the amount you can make.
Corbevax is being distributed outside of the U.S. and currently isn't FDA approved. But perhaps the most important of all, the accessibility the Texas Children's vaccine offers by not having a patent, paving the way for partners worldwide.
What makes the patent-free vaccines unique is that companies can produce the vaccine without worrying about legal challenges and huge financial losses. And we can't let this happen again. We have to have a world that is much more effective against preventing and responding to pandemics. And we have to have a world that's fair, more equitable, and just. And that's a global imperative.
For the news, I'm Morgan Chesky.